So we're going to continue with the basic administrative actions, and we're going to start talking about software and hardware management and how you should do it on the machine. I'm going to cover a Windows endpoint, but it's the same concept if you're doing a Windows client or Windows server. The software installation and the device management is relatively the same. If we go to one of the machines that I have, I can do for starters, I want to reach the control panel and the add remove software in order for me to see the installed software and what's going on this machine. I would like to show you a different way to achieve it, and this is by using the direct command. So I can click on the start and add and click on epwiz.cpl. And this is the application, the applet that is talking about add remove programs in general. So once I click it, it will take me directly to the place where I want to go. An alternative to this is something that you would do like we showed earlier with the control panel or any other application. You would go to the control panel, and then you will open this programs, and then you will click the first option of uninstall program, and as you can see it will take you to the same place. Why did I want to show you the other way with the direct applet? This is something that as you progress in your knowledge you might want to remember or use a few of those shortcuts to reach places faster and reach to the places you want to be without navigating to this window. Another advantage beyond the fact that it's quicker is that once you move from multiple operating system, let's say for example a Windows 7 or a Windows 10 or an older operating system, and you navigate between them, usually the applets are always the same, so you're able to reach the same place reliably and not having to go through new UI that changes and modifies the look and feel. So once you reach the uninstall program window, you can see a list of all the software that's installed on this machine with some data like the publisher, when it was installed, size and version. And if you would just like to remove something, you just right click it and uninstall change, and this will take you to the uninstall window and you'll proceed from the wizard there. Another two places that is important as an administrator is these little two boxes at the top that are often missed. View installed updates. So as a Windows administrator, you might want to see what are the security updates or general updates, the Windows updates that are installed on this machine. And this is important in a lot of ways, just for visibility to understand what's going on in terms of what are the updates that are installed. And sometimes you might need to do some uninstall options if you have an update that has gone wrong or an update that does something in your environment that you're not wanting to keep. So that's also one of the tasks that might occur over time. Another important thing is this turn Windows feature on off, and as you can see there's a small shield next to it, so it requires administrative access. But once I click on it, it will show you that there are a lot of applications, if you can see here, a lot of mini application and windows that you can add or remove from this window. And there's a lot of common ones that you might experience with depending on when you've learned IT. A common one is the Telnet Client. A lot of people like to add this if they want to do all kinds of network testing and stuff like that. There's also all kind of thing like a .NET Framework 3.5 that's less common in a modern version, but sometimes you have an older software that requires it and you need to add the component for here in Windows 10 and above. And there's also all kinds of tools here that might make sense for specific use cases and are not that common. You're not able to find them if you're trying to add them, and you're not really going to download and install this package because it's already configured in Windows. So this is the way you would do it. So if, for example, I would like to install the Telnet client, I need to add this box. I click on OK, and it performs the installation for me. Just as an example, I picked something that is very fast and easy. So this is the places where you'll see the Windows features, the install updates or the install software. And this is basically the software inventory part. The second part to the operating system is the hardware, and the hardware is very straightforward. You would go to either device management, which is written devmgmt.msc if you would like to open the device manager. An alternative route is to use the search and click on device manager or device, and it'll take you, and there's other ways to reach it. But once you see the device manager, you're actually seeing the hardware and the driver inventory of what's going on. In case you're not familiar with those terms of driver or firmware, what is the hardware itself. There's not much theory about it. There is, but there's not really a lot of things that are important to you as a beginner. But you need to be aware of where things are sitting if you want to look for something. So, for example, if you look at DVD, CD-ROM, obviously you'll see the CD-ROM or the DVD-ROM that exists on the machine. If you go to monitors, you'll see what is the monitors that is connected to this plug. If you go to the network adapter, you'll see the various network adapters that exist on this machine, etc. But there's a lot of things like a display driver if you want to look at the graphical card. This is a virtual machine, so it looks kind of generic and there's not too many names of hardware, but each one of those components has properties. And in the properties themselves, there's a lot of information that's relevant to the driver that is installed, and you can see what is the driver vendor, when it was installed and such. And there's a lot of functionality that you might want to take place as an administrator in this window, like updating the driver, rollbacking the driver if it causes issue. And the driver is a way to call the software of a hardware component, the really low level software that is relevant to how the hardware component behaves in the operating system. So it's something that is very common. You need to have a driver to operate any hardware. And this driver is often updated over time with bug fixes, performance improvement, and such. And as an administrator, you might find yourself updating and modifying the driver. Another important thing is to disable or enable components. Sometimes you find yourself in a situation where a hardware device does not work. For example, the mouse, or for example, a printer, or for example, any other utility like a graphic card or device that is connected. A place to see what's going on is the device manager. So for example, if I take a look at ports and I have this virtual COM port, if I right click it and I do disable device, you can see that this device will become disabled and it will show me this little down arrow. There are other statuses like disabled, like alert, error, and such that will show his icon, and you can right click and enable it, update it, uninstall it, and reinstall it, and such. And all of these functionalities are one of the initial troubleshooting steps for anything related to hardware. You would like to see the hardware here, and if you don't see it, one of the things that you can do is to basically scan for hardware changes. It does happen automatically every 1 minute, but sometimes this is something that you need to trigger. If there's a problem, usually it helps. And sometimes you'll see a hardware device that will show at the bottom or at one of these pillars with a question mark. And this question mark means that there is no driver to connect to this hardware. This happens if you're installing a machine that is not connected to the internet often, and this is a unique device that is connected. There is an automatic process to look for a driver online using the Windows directory, the Windows Update service, and if you're not connected to the internet, it does not work out of the box, and you might need to provide the driver software as a separate disk or an installation software that you need to provide. So there's a lot of things to be considered here, but for a true beginner, you just want to go into the device manager, see the connected devices, you'll see a list of all the components, and see if you have any errors or something that is disabled, or you would like to see the driver version of a specific item, and that's pretty much what you need to know. So for a quick recap of this video, software and hardware inventory, super important, super need to know. There's a simple question: is this software installed? Can you remove this software? Is this hardware working properly? Can you update the driver? Can you disable a hardware component? All of those things are things that are relevant from those two windows, and they're very common administrative tasks. So I'm going to wrap up this video here, and if you have any question regarding hardware and driver in general, I might consider doing a more in-depth video about it. But for the true beginner, I think I covered enough information for the basic tasks.